Oh, Lord.
Is that a bad thing? I'm Marina.
I've met you before.
I have seen you lots of times.
I've met you too.
So, Detective Gonzalez, Detective Mentor.
Okay.
So we're just talking to you about the incident happened on January 27th.
Okay.
Can you just tell us from the beginning of your contact with the patient or the baby from last
The
contact
incident?
with either? Yes.
Okay. So I was up at the medical floor, and the ER tech had called and said, the doctor wants you to call in the on-call lady for the ultrasound. So I'm like, okay. So I called in the ultrasound tech, and then I don't know how much time lapsed. I don't know that the house supervisor phone rang again, and it was the girl from the lab, and she's like, Marina, they need you here in the ER right now. And I was like, okay, what's going on? Because I had noticed the ER board on the computer. There was like maybe 2 or 3 patients in the ER, I'm not sure. And she's like, well, and I'm like, it's okay. I could just tell by her voice something was wrong. So we hang up, and I take off to the ER. And as I'm coming in through the radiology department into the ER, I meet up with Lori and HT, who was the charge nurse that night. And HT says, okay, look, this is what's happened. This girl came in with abdominal pain, and once we put her in a room, she said she needed to go to the bathroom. We let her go to the bathroom, and she was there for a good while. They had several attempts to knock on the door and ask her, hey, are you okay? Do you need any help? And she said no, she was okay. And so I guess they felt like she was in there for too long, so they were like, hey, you need to come out. They went to get the little key that could open the door. And, excuse me. So I guess when they opened the door, they saw that she was cleaning. She was trying to clean blood. They said it was a horrible, gory, bloody mess in that bathroom. I did not see that. So then they walked her back, I guess, to her room, which was ER room 2. They walked her back to the room, and at this time we still didn't know that there was a baby. So they said that they went back into the ER room 2, and I guess they reported to the doctor saying, hey, here's all this blood, like something's going on. And of course, you start thinking of like, what if she tried to do this? What if she tried to do that? Like they didn't know. So then the ultrasound tech still hadn't got to the hospital at that time yet. So the doctor's like, you know what? I need to probably do like a pelvic exam to look, because like what's going on? Why is there so much blood? So the charge nurse HT says that, they were in the room and probably trying to set up for the pelvic exam when Lori, the ER tech, had already called Leela, the housekeeper. Hey, can you come and clean this bathroom? Because there's a lot of blood. So Leela went to clean, and she had already been cleaning pretty much everything when they said that the last thing that she lifted the trash can and she realized that it was heavy. And so then she was like, like this is weird because this bathroom trash has never been heavy. So she said that when she looked, that she wasn't sure what it was, but she kind of thought that what she was seeing was maybe like a baby. So she says that she yelled out for Lori, and Lori went in there and grabbed it, and I guess sure enough realized that there was a baby in there. So Lori yelled out for HT or went to get HT. I'm not sure exactly.
Were you at the nurse's station at this point?
No, they still had not told me about that because they didn't know that there was a baby. So I was still at the medical floor.
Okay.
And so then HT, when he's telling me this story, HT tells me that that he goes, grabs the trash can, and he lifts the bag, realizes there's a baby in there, so he takes it right across the hall to trauma 2, tears open the bag, realizes the baby's there, and
And
it was
you
lifeless.
didn't witness any of this?
So at the time, he's telling me that, so he's like, so come on. He's telling me everything I just said is from HT's story.
Okay.
And so then he's like, so come on, here it is. And so I walk into the trauma 2 room, and sure enough, the baby's on the gurney where he had placed the baby, lifeless. And the trash can is right by the gurney. So, like, of course, I was in utter shock. Like, you know, we were all just in shock. And so they had already called the police. The doctor, I think initially at the time, was about to do a pelvic exam to look to see where all this blood was coming from. And HT had gone and told her, hey, I need you right now. Like, you need to come with me. And took her to trauma 2, showed her what had happened.
And were you still in trauma 2?
So, no. So that happened like before.
Oh, okay.
That happened before I got there. So then when HT told me all of that, when I came out of trauma 2, HT and Dr. Vasquez, and the authorities, the police officers that were just getting there. And I know that Dr. Vasquez went and HT went out like to that little area inside the hospital, but like where the ambulance comes in, and they kind of were giving the police like a heads up of what had happened. So then after that, I really didn't know what happened, because I was on the phone with my chain of command, because I needed to know, like, you know, this has never happened. I didn't, as a house supervisor, I didn't know what I needed to do, if there was any paperwork that I needed to do, if we were supposed to register this lifeless body. Like, I didn't know. So
you called your chain of command for guidance?
I called, yeah, for questioning. So I called Patty, who's the CNO, Patty Bartok, and I called her and I said, hey, look, this is what's going on, and I need to know what I need to do for legal purposes. And so she was like, well, Marina, you know, like, I don't really know. Let me have you call Cindy Buck, Cindy Buck is like in charge of medical records, and she deals a lot with the birth certificates or death certificates. And so she said, so why don't you call her, and then I'll get legal on the team, you know, on the phone, and see if I can find out what needs to be done. So, but then after that, like, I was on the phone with Cindy, and then after that, like, Patty was calling me, and then all of administration basically were calling me, like.
And is that your job?
That's my job.
That's your job.
Yeah, as a house supervisor, like, I'm in kind of charge of like everything that happens during the night in this facility. And so, and even Dr. Salgado called me and was wanting to see what had happened, and he told me that he was awake. He was already planning on coming in, you know, to speak to the doctor. And so Cindy Buck actually had told me, okay, yes, we need to register the baby. And like, as a, you know, like a Jane Doe or whatever, like infant male, but there's also like a paper that I need you to, you know, ask her. There's a paper that you need to ask her, and the nurses fill out. And it's very important that you, that we know whether or not the baby took a breath, or whether or not the baby did not take a breath. And I said, okay. Well, so at that time I said, because every nurse by that time had been telling me that this patient had been kind of changing up little bits and pieces of her story while she was in the presence of her mom, I guess. So when I said, okay, I'll try to, you know, get the truth out of her, then Cindy was like, well, whether you have to ask the mother to leave the room, but we need to know. So I went and I found the form that Cindy was talking about, and I go into the patient's room and I introduce myself, and I said, there's just a few questions that I need to ask you, and most of it was like, first and last name, date of birth, social security number, which she didn't know, and then whether or not she knew, whether or not she took any kind of medications, and then so I said, so, right now it's very important that you're very honest and truthful with me. I said, and it was just she and I in the room, and
Mom wasn't there?
Mom was not there.
Okay.
And I said, did your baby take at least one breath when it first happened? Did it take at least one breath, or was it not breathing? And then she kind of looked at me in the face and the eyes, and she was like, well, can I tell you? And I said, tell me what? And she said, so I've been having this bad abdominal pain, she said, and we came here to the ER, and when they brought me back here to this room, I felt like I needed to go poop. She said, and I asked if I could go to the bathroom. She said, and so when they said, yeah, that I could go to the bathroom, she said, when I sat on the toilet, she said, it just all fell out. And she said, but when I had it in my arms, it wasn't breathing, it wasn't moving. And so, of course, you want to be very, very judgmental at that time, and you have to bite your tongue sometimes. But, my first reaction was like, I wanted to say, hey, well, then why wouldn't you call us for help? But I didn't. She said, so he wasn't moving, he wasn't breathing. So I just placed him in there.
Was that the last contact
And
you had with her?
Then, I asked, so do you have, was it a steady boyfriend? She said yes. And then I said, did he know that you were pregnant? And she was like, no. I said, did you know that you were pregnant? And she said, no. And then I said, so do you want to include him? Because there was a section for like the birth certificate. And I said, so do you want to put his name down as the father? And she said, for what? And I said, this is all new to me too. So this would probably be for the birth certificate as well as a death certificate. And she said no, that she didn't want to put him down. And I said, okay. So I think she had to sign it. And she signed it, and then that was it. That was the only contact that I had with her. And then, of course, they were transferring her to Roswell to be seen by an actual OBGYN doctor. But that because after that, I was just on the phone with my administration team.
Because you're in charge of like the whole operation, so you just had to make sure everything was flowing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had to make sure that if there was paperwork that needed to be signed or filled out, that I needed to make sure that was done before she got transferred out.
Okay, so you just handled her paperwork before she got transferred out. So you said, how long have you've been here? A while.
Yeah, I've been here at this hospital for 23 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Going back to when you were talking to her and she said it wasn't breathing.
Yeah.
And did she say I just placed it in the trash?
She just said I didn't know what to do. She said I didn't know what to do. So I mean, and I don't even really, to be completely honest, I don't know if that was her wording that she placed it in there. I don't know. I don't remember her wording, but I just know that she said it just all came out and she had it in her hands and that she didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to do at the time. And so I'm like, I don't want to say that she said that she placed it because I don't remember.
That's okay. You don't have to.
That's fine. That's fine.
So, other than what we asked you, is there anything else we didn't ask that you think we should know?
Not that I'm aware of, I don't think.
All right. Well, if you have any other things that you like tomorrow, you're like, oh, I forgot to tell them this. Cynthia has my contact information, so you
Okay.
can let her know.
Okay,
And that's Minster's contact information.
okay,
If you have any more questions, comments, anything you want to add, okay?
okay.
Thank you for
sounds
coming
good.
in.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
guys.
Thank
Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.